She spoke 7 words to me last week. Not in a row. Not even in a sentence. Just 7, scattered, carelessly dropped like crumbs she hoped I wouldn't follow. And yet I counted them. I counted them like a prisoner marks days on a wall. Monday, keys. Wednesday, mail. Saturday, you left the light on. That was it. That was the sum total of my wife's communication with me last week. No good morning. No how are you. No I love you. Just mechanical, mandatory syllables that made me feel like I lived with a malfunctioning robot who occasionally muttered passive-aggressive updates. And the worst part? She wasn't even mad. Mad would have meant emotion. Rage. Jealousy. Love's decaying cousin. But this wasn't that. This was nothing. And nothing is so much harder to fight. I started documenting it. Not because I wanted evidence, but because I needed to prove to myself that I wasn't losing it. I wrote down every time she ignored me, every text she left on read, every eye roll when I asked if she was okay. I had pages. Literal pages. I started calling it the vanishing act. Like watching a magician make someone disappear. Only I was the one fading. It's insane what you start to notice when you're being erased. She changed the password on our streaming apps. Subtle. Quiet. Never mentioned it. She started locking her car, which she never used to do, even when parked in our own driveway. She'd laugh at her phone, smiling at a screen like it raised her better than I did. She'd turn her back when she got a call, always stepping into the bathroom with a voice 2 octaves softer than she used on me. You want to scream. You want to ask. But how do you confront silence? So instead, I just kept being the good husband. Took the trash out. Cleaned the gutters. Made her coffee just the way she liked. Almond milk. 2 stevia. No eye contact. And still, she drifted. It was like trying to hug smoke. No matter how much I reached, there was nothing solid to hold on to. Until yesterday. Yesterday, I opened our joint bank account and found a withdrawal I didn't recognize. $487. 62 gone. Labeled, Laurel Springs Getaway. We've never been to Laurel Springs. Never even mentioned it. But someone was there. And something in me snapped. I didn't call her. Didn't ask. Didn't accuse. I just went to the hallway closet, pulled out the luggage she hadn't touched in months, and started packing. Not for a trip. For escape. Because if she wasn't going to end this with words, then I would end it with silence louder than hers. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there next to her, listening to the quiet clicks of her phone under the covers, the fake yawns, the fake breathing patterns when she pretended to be asleep. It was all fake. And I couldn't unsee that transaction from earlier for $187. 62, Laurel Springs Getaway. I Googled it, of course. It's a luxury spa resort 2 hours from our town, the kind that markets to couples looking for reconnection, the kind that offers wine tastings and couples massages and rose petal turn-down service, the kind of place you go to when you're trying to fix something or hide something. But we hadn't gone there. I sure as hell hadn't. So who was she reconnecting with? The next morning, I waited until she left for her Pilates class, or whatever lie she was wearing that day, and then I did what I never thought I would. I went through her laptop. Not her phone. Her phone was Fort Knox. But her MacBook? She always forgot to close her browser tabs. And there it was, confirmation. A Gmail thread from a week ago. She booked the resort under a different last name. Not mine. And she had sent the confirmation to someone named Jasper R. I don't know any Jaspers. We've never had friends named Jasper. It wasn't a coworker. It wasn't a cousin. But it was someone who got a full spa weekend with my wife while I was home fixing the sink she complained about last month. I sat there staring at the screen, and I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just got cold. Like everything inside me stopped operating all at once. All the denial, all the hoping, all the excuses I made for her. She's just stressed. She's going through something. Maybe I've been distant. It all melted under one ugly truth. She wasn't distant. She was gone. The person I married had already checked out of this marriage. I was just the houseplant she forgot to water on her way out. I printed the receipt. Just that. 1 page. And I folded it, slid it under her favorite mug on the kitchen counter. I didn't leave a note. I wanted the paper to say it all. She would know I knew. And when she did, when she came home and saw that folded page, something finally broke the silence. But not in the way I expected. She didn't chase me. She didn't apologize. She called someone. Not me. Someone else. And that's when I knew this went deeper than one weekend. I didn't go far. Just parked 3 blocks away, engine off, phone silent, watching the front of the house like I didn't live there. I knew what time she usually got back, 10:15 a.m., because I always made her smoothie around 10:20. Banana, oat milk, protein powder, sprinkle of cinnamon. That morning, I wasn't making anything. I was just waiting. At 10:12, her car pulled in. She got out slowly, not rushed like someone who had errands or guilt, but calm. Too calm. She walked into the house like it wasn't already on fire. I could only imagine what she was thinking when she saw the folded receipt under her mug. I sat there for what felt like an hour, but it was maybe 6 minutes before my phone lit up. Not a text. A call. From our landline. The landline. We hadn't used it in months. Maybe she thought I'd blocked her cell. I didn't pick up. I just stared at the screen like it was covered in static. It rang 3 times and stopped. And then I saw her silhouette in the living room window, pacing. Not frantic. Just calculating. That's when I saw her lift her own phone. And I swear to you, I watched her dial and hold it to her ear. And she smiled. She actually smiled. I rolled down my window, just to hear something. Anything. And that's when the front window cracked open a few inches. Just enough for sound to leak. And I heard her say the name again. Jasper. He found it, she said. No, I don't think he'll do anything. He's not like that. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. He's not like that. That was how she saw me. Harmless. Pathetic. Predictable. A man who would swallow betrayal like cold soup and ask for more. But the worst part? She was right. I hadn't even shouted. I hadn't slammed a door. I hadn't dared to rage. I'd just left quietly, like a ghost in my own life. And she knew I'd do nothing. She counted on it. That sentence played over and over in my head. He's not like that. She didn't sound sorry. She didn't sound scared. She sounded relieved. Like she could finally stop pretending. And that's when I realized, this wasn't new. This wasn't a mistake. This had been going on for a long, long time. And I just finally walked into the movie at the very end of the credits. I didn't go back home that night. Honestly, I didn't even want to drive past it. I couldn't stand the thought of my clothes still folded in the dresser, my toothbrush standing upright next to hers, the wine glasses we got on our second anniversary still sitting in the cabinet like nothing had shattered. I booked a room at a roadside inn with carpets that smelled like dust and old socks. It didn't matter. It had a bed, a door that locked, and more peace than my house ever gave me. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel invisible. I felt angry. Not explosive, not the kind of anger that makes you throw plates. No, this was different. It was sharp, cold, controlled. And honestly, I liked it. I started making a list. Not out of pettiness, but because I needed facts. I wrote down every suspicious moment from the past 6 months. The late meetings. The dead phone batteries. The gym clothes that came back smelling like perfume instead of sweat. All of it. I cross-checked her Venmo activity. And sure enough, there were transfers to a JR. Small ones, usually with boring labels like food or tickets. I don't know what hurt more, the betrayal or the laziness of how obvious it had been. It was like she wasn't even trying to hide it. Like she wanted me to catch her, just so she could blame me for not being enough. And yeah, I cried. Alone, in that crusty motel bed with a vending machine humming through the wall. I cried because it felt like I had died and no one came to the funeral. But when I woke up, something shifted. I didn't want to be the sad guy anymore. I didn't want to be the background character in my own life, silently absorbing all her choices. If she thought I'd disappear quietly, she was wrong. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to dismantle this thing piece by piece, starting with what she thought she controlled. So I called our bank. Had them freeze the joint card. Froze the credit line too. Changed my password on everything. Email, Netflix, even the thermostat app. Then I called my cousin Wesley, who works in real estate, and asked him how fast someone could legally list their half of a house in a divorce situation. He said, "Carlton, you okay?" And I said, "No, but I'm about to be." Because I wasn't just going to leave this marriage. I was going to make her wish she'd never tried to erase me. By day 3, she noticed I was gone. I knew because she finally texted me. Not to ask if I was okay. Not to apologize. No. Her first message read, "Where are you? You're being dramatic." I stared at the screen and almost laughed out loud. She cheats, lies, disappears for weekends. And I'm being dramatic? I didn't respond. I wanted her to feel what I'd felt for months. Ignored, unimportant, like a ghost watching their own life from a distance. An hour later, another text. If you're trying to punish me with this silent treatment, it's immature. That one made my stomach flip, because it confirmed something I hadn't dared to believe. She wasn't just unbothered. She was nervous. She expected me to come crawling back like I always did. Make her a coffee. Ask her how her day was. Pretend the distance didn't feel like a canyon between us. But now I wasn't doing any of that. I wasn't giving her control over the narrative anymore. I wasn't even in the house for her to manipulate. And her control was slipping, one unanswered message at a time. The best part? I hadn't blocked her. I wanted her to see that I was online, that I was active, that I was alive and functioning and choosing, very deliberately, not to respond. Meanwhile, I moved fast. I found a temporary apartment across town through Wesley's contacts. It was small, barely furnished, but it was clean, and most importantly, it was mine. Mine, with a lock she didn't have a key to. That same afternoon, I transferred my paycheck into a separate account. I called my old friend Brian, who's a lawyer, and set a quiet consultation. No papers filed yet, just preparation, just facts. Because something inside me was waking up, and it wasn't rage, it was clarity. And as I built my quiet fortress, Leah kept texting. You're acting like a child. Are you really going to throw everything away over some stupid misunderstanding? Come home. We need to talk. But she never said the one thing I was waiting for. She never said, I'm sorry. Not once. Because she wasn't sorry. She was exposed. Her lies were unraveling. And she was trying to get ahead of the wreckage before I made it public. That's when it hit me. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing leverage. The house, the finances, the image she built of being the stable one. And now I had the one thing she never thought I'd use, silence. Not weak silence. Not defeated silence. But loaded, deliberate, explosive silence. And when she showed up at my new apartment the next morning, banging on the door like I owed her closure, I didn't answer. That silence broke her more than any fight ever could. She didn't knock politely. She pounded, fist to door, over and over like she was trying to wake the dead. I watched her through the peephole, hair messy, no makeup, panic in her eyes. I'd never seen her like that. She looked human, not cold, not calculating, not composed, just unfiltered panic. And for a split second, I almost opened the door. I almost gave in. But then I remembered the look on her face when she laughed into that phone call with Jasper. The smirk, the relief, the way she said, he's not like that. And suddenly, I didn't owe her anything. Not time, not space, not closure. I walked away from the door and sat on the couch, where she couldn't hear my footsteps. She stayed outside for 10 minutes. Then silence. I thought she left, but I was wrong. Because 2 hours later, she sent me something. A photo. No message. Just an image. It was of her hand holding a piece of paper, a printout of my new lease. My private lease. The one I hadn't told anyone about except Wesley and Brian. My stomach twisted. How did she get that? Who gave it to her? I didn't have time to spiral before another message came in. You don't get to play games, Carlton. You'll regret this. That was her third mistake. Threats. From someone who was already exposed. And that's when I knew I had to find out who Jasper really was. Because up to that point, I only had initials. Suspicion. I never had confirmation. So I called in a favor from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Elena, an old co-worker of Leah's. She and I never got along, but she hated Leah more than she disliked me. I figured that might work in my favor. It did. She didn't ask why I wanted to know. She just said, Jasper R? You mean Jasper Rowell? The new guy from her office? They had lunch every Thursday for months. You didn't know? I didn't respond. I just listened as the pieces started falling into place. Jasper wasn't a stranger. He was her junior co-worker. The one she used to joke about. The one she told me was too awkward and not her type. The same guy she once said was like a little brother to the team. And now she was sharing hotel rooms with him. My wife. With the guy I was told not to worry about. The classic cliché, and I walked right into it. I hung up the phone and just sat there dizzy. The betrayal stung. But what hit harder was the intentionality. She didn't just cheat. She chose someone I'd never suspect. She built the perfect cover story and wore it for months like a second skin. And the only reason it was unraveling now was because I finally stopped chasing her silence and started using it against her. 2 days after I learned who Jasper really was, I stopped feeling anything at all. Not sadness, not rage, just this strange clarity. It was like all the noise finally cut out, and I could hear myself think again. That's when I made the call. To HR. I didn't need revenge, I just needed confirmation. And sure enough, with a little fake concern and a made-up story about an anonymous tip regarding an office relationship affecting workplace morale, they said the words I already knew were coming. We're aware of the situation. It's being investigated. That's all they'd say. But it was enough. Jasper wasn't just some guy. He was a subordinate. My wife had crossed a professional line. And apparently, it wasn't going unnoticed anymore. The same afternoon, I finally responded to one of her texts, but not with words. I sent her a picture. Just one. It was the framed photo from our wedding, now lying shattered in the motel dumpster, the glass cracked clean across our faces. She replied within 30 seconds. What the hell is this supposed to mean? I didn't answer. I was done explaining myself to someone who had already made every decision without me. The next morning, she showed up again. This time, she didn't knock. She screamed. Full volume, angry, panicked, shouting in the hallway of my building like some unhinged soap opera scene. You think this makes you look strong? You're embarrassing yourself, Carlton. She yelled through the door. Open the door. I'm not doing this with you. I didn't move. I just sat on the couch, sipping coffee, letting her spiral. Then, silence again. But not the cold, smug silence she used to punish me with. This was different. This was fear. Because when people like Leah lose control, they don't go quiet. They go nuclear. And right on cue, 20 minutes later, I got the email. It was from her lawyer. She wanted to initiate a formal discussion of separation and asset division. Formal. Cold. Calculated. Exactly how she thought she'd win. But what she didn't know, what she never thought to ask, was that I'd already been meeting with someone. My own attorney. Quietly. For days. And not just about the house, but about the money. The stocks. The accounts she didn't realize I had access to because she never paid attention to the boring stuff. Her mistake was thinking I'd roll over like always. But the man she'd ignored for weeks, the one she underestimated, wasn't sitting there wounded anymore. He was prepared. And when my lawyer sent her the counterproposal, detailing every financial move I'd made, every dollar she couldn't touch, she didn't reply. Not right away. But I knew that silence. That was the sound of panic setting in. The same silence I used to beg her to break. And now, for the first time, she was the one trapped in it. Only this time, I wasn't listening. It's strange how quiet freedom feels. After weeks of chaos, noise, second-guessing, and pretending to be someone I wasn't just to keep a marriage from falling apart, I finally heard something I hadn't in years. My own voice. Not the apologetic one. Not the begging one. The real one. The one that didn't need permission to be okay. Leah never replied to my lawyer's counteroffer. Instead, she sent a single email 2 days later. It read, "Fine. Do what you want." That was it. No signature. No goodbye. Just a final shrug disguised as surrender. And for once, I didn't need more than that. A month later, the papers were signed. Clean, fast, and quiet. I kept the second savings account, the investments, and even the cabin property her parents never cared about, the one I had renovated with my own hands while she rolled her eyes. She kept her job, barely. HR didn't fire her, but they moved her to a different department. Different team. No more power plays. No more mentorship lunches. Jasper? He vanished. Whether by choice or pressure, I didn't care. He wasn't my story anymore. And Leah? She became someone I used to know. Someone I once loved, yes, but also someone I survived. The silence I once feared became the space I needed to rebuild. I started cooking again, not to impress anyone, but because I actually enjoyed it. I reconnected with a few old friends I'd pushed away while trying to hold a collapsing marriage together. And I started therapy. Real therapy. Not the kind where you pretend everything's fine, but the kind where someone looks you in the eyes and says, "You matter even when no one else is watching." And maybe that's what this whole thing was about. Not revenge. Not proving her wrong. But learning how to stop vanishing in rooms I lived in. Last week, I passed by a coffee shop Leah once called too boring, and for no reason at all, I went inside. I sat at the window, ordered a drink, and opened a book. No phone. No drama. Just me. And for the first time in what felt like years, I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel invisible. I felt free. And if you're watching this, if you're sitting in silence wondering if you'll ever feel like yourself again, trust me, you will. One breath, One boundary, one quiet goodbye at a time.